What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC. We have right here on the Sports Courier Podcast an inspirational guest, one that's helping out kids, one that was a walk-on in college, one that was an undrafted free agent in the NFL, just had a successful rookie season with the Miami Dolphins. He's the definition of perseverance. We are talking to Patrick Laird, running back of the Miami Dolphins, coming off of a rookie campaign. Patrick, how's it going?
Going well. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. Now, you've had one hell of a journey, which we will certainly talk about, but you just survived your rookie season, the 2019 season. Looking back at it, how was it?
Exceeded my own expectations in some way, but no, it's a long season. They always warn you about it, but you don't really understand that until you go through it. But, it's a dream come true, and it was a great season. Obviously, we want to get more wins, but towards the end of the season, I think a lot of the guys on the team felt like we were building something strong, and so excited for that going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I've interviewed a number of undrafted free agents who ended up in the pros, each with their own unique story. When you did go undrafted, was there something in the back of your mind that said, oh man, I may have to have a backup plan here? Or were you pretty confident that you'd eventually end up on a roster?
I mean, there's always a little bit of doubt in the back of your mind. I think it's okay to have that. Sometimes that's healthy and can drive you. But, I went to Cal and, graduated and, studied business and political science. So I figured if football didn't work out, I could figure out something, but I was just all in for football and, continue to be that way now. So I'm going to try to play as long as I can.
Now, doing some research on you, from what I understand, before you got into football, you actually wanted to play college basketball?
I mean, growing up, my goal was to play professional basketball in Europe. For whatever reason, that was what I wanted to do. Kind of sold myself short, didn't think I could play in the NBA, but I wanted to play in Europe. And then it was my sophomore year of high school is when I really fell in love with football. And that's kind of when I changed my focus. My older brother played college football. My dad played college football. And so that's kind of when I changed what I wanted to do. And then so my goal after that was to play college football.
And what led you to trying to walk on to Cal Berkeley and obviously ended up being successful there? Because from what I understand, you actually had some options, right?
Yeah, so I had a couple schools recruited me back east. My brother played at Cornell, so I was thinking I was going to go, play at like a good academic school back east. And then I had a good senior season, and my coaches said, hey, maybe you could play at, Division I, Power 5 school possibly. And I thought, all right, let's send my film out if you want, but I don't want to sacrifice the academics of some of the opportunities I had with the schools I was talking to. So they sent my film out to some schools, and Cal came back and said they liked me as a walk-on. And I did some research, saw that the business schools ranked really high, and kind of how I made my decision.
I believe you were 7th on the depth chart at one point at running back.
Yeah, they released those depth charts in fall camp in the spring, and so yeah, I was 7th string, and it's kind of a funny thing to look back on.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and you broke out your last 2 years at Cal. Pretty incredible. But how did you maintain that balance? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of college students listening, watching this, whether they're playing a sport or juggling a full-time job and other responsibilities. How the hell did you balance business school and football, which are both ridiculously demanding?
It's just two things I really like. So I was blessed growing up having parents that stress education. I have 3 older siblings that were all very smart, and I kind of just took after their lead. So I enjoyed school. I like to learn. I like studying. So that part of it was fine for me. And then football is just another passion of mine. So it's just being a college student athlete, playing football was like the best part of my life so far. I mean, obviously playing NFL is cool, but it was just like 2 things that I really enjoyed doing. So obviously it's tough, but I was lucky since I enjoyed both of those things.
When did the game, at least in college, start slowing down for you where you realized, okay, I'm different from everybody else and I'm one of the upper echelon guys? Like, when did it get to a point where you're like, all right, you know what? I'm finally really getting the hang of this, and I know I can make this a career.
Yeah. I mean, early on, so I played my true freshman year, and I was making plays in camp. And so that's when I knew, okay, I actually belong here. I went to a small high school, so some people doubted if I could actually play at the next level. And so you're just making plays early on, but I didn't get opportunity. I didn't play as much until my junior season. and had a breakout game, the second game of the season. And that's kind of when I just, felt like, okay, I'm not just like a role player or playing special teams. I can actually make some plays on offense as a running back, and kind of went from there.
You also caught the ball, and I think actually, I don't know if you threw a touchdown, but you threw a few passes in college, right?
I actually threw 2 checkdowns. So both of the plays were designed for me to throw it over the top to a slot receiver running like a seam or a corner. And I throw an interception, and I saw if like the safety didn't bite on the run, I was supposed to just like run the ball. But one of our wide receivers just decided to run like a 10-yard hitch, and it was not planned. We hadn't practiced it at all. And so both times, actually, I just threw the ball to that receiver, and I think they both went for first downs. So 2 checkdowns in my career.
Hey, it worked out, right? And yeah, you had a stellar college career, averaged 5 yards per carry, which is a hell of a carry. And then you go on to the NFL. You went undrafted, ended up signing with the Miami Dolphins, a team that we've covered extensively here at TSC. And there were not many expectations for this team. There were a lot of trades made, a lot of various offseason, midseason moves. Everybody said, they're going to win maybe one game if they're lucky. You guys ended up finishing 5-11 and ending on a high note. You upset the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a huge win. And then, of course, in the final week, which you were mic'd up for, you guys beat the New England Patriots, which more or less kind of sent them into a tailspin before losing to the Tennessee Titans. Can you talk about that whole journey of the 2019 season, not having any real expectations put forth on yourself and the team, and being able to kind of finish things strong?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the guys in the organization are, they're competitive, and, we love playing football. We don't go out there to lose. And so you hear the noise on the outside, but it's just not something you focus on. And yeah, we just kind of put our head down and worked, stuck to the process, and ended up getting some good wins towards the end of the season. And so those are always fun. They're rewarding. And that's something that we want to build on going forward. But yeah, it is one of those things where, when you stick to something and it's really tough and it doesn't give you the results that you want early on, but you're doing the right thing, and then eventually the results come. It's it's a very gratifying feeling. So I think a lot of guys were stoked about that, but obviously a couple games that we left on the field that we really want to get, this upcoming season. So that's just something we're going to be focusing on going forward.
Did it help being able to play with guys that were kind of in a similar position to you? Some guys were undrafted, some guys were unheralded and overlooked, and all with a chip on their shoulder?
I think there's an aspect to that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know there's a lot of undrafted guys that were playing. So, but obviously you need talent to win NFL football games, but talent isn't everything. A lot of it's culture, how disciplined you are as a team, how tough you are, how smart you are as a team. And so, we had a lot of guys come in and out this season. And so I think we're just, looking for guys that fit that mentality. And I'm hoping to be one of those guys over the next few years and play as long as I can and kind of just fill whatever role that the coaches ask of me.
There's an infamous story at the beginning of the season, or actually prior to the season, where you were mistaken as the intern of the Miami Dolphins, and that's led to you having the nickname as the intern. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily mistaken as an intern. The story's kind of got twisted around a bit, but basically the gist of the story is I go into the dining hall or cafeteria area to eat, and there wasn't many players in there. So I just sat down with one of the operations guys that I knew, and we're just kind of talking. And then some of the operations interns that were there that summer come and sit with us. And so, they're still college students, and I'm asking them questions. Oh, how's it going here? How do you like Florida? What do you study in college? What are you interested in? And after about 10 minutes, one of them looks at me and he says, "So what do you do here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm on the team." And he was like shocked, and he was very apologetic, and he thought he offended me, but I wasn't offended in any way. But anyway, so I tell that story to the team because sometimes the rookies get called down, tell a joke, sing a song, or tell a story. So I told that story thinking it was pretty funny. And ever since then, some of the offensive coaches started referring to me as the intern, and kind of went from there.
Hey, there's worse nicknames.
Yeah.
And you had an awesome career highlight, the first career touchdown in your NFL run against the Philadelphia Eagles. How'd it feel to kind of get in that end zone and finally accomplish that goal?
It was awesome. There's no feeling like scoring a touchdown in a football game. I remember, my first touchdown in youth football. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like the best feeling in the world. And then, obviously when I did it in college, it was awesome. And then to do it in the NFL was like extremely surreal. It's just not many people get the opportunity to do that. It meant a lot for our team. So I was just really happy to help us get that win against the Eagles.
You play with, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick, a guy who is a veteran. He seems like a pretty easygoing guy, also a fiery competitor on the field. He has an epic beard. He's a guy that's not afraid to use his legs, despite the fact that he's been in the NFL for well over a decade now, a decade and a half, and has taken his fair share of licks. What's it like playing with Fitz?
It's awesome. Everyone sees on TV how competitive he is. It's one of the first things people always say is, he just looks fun to play with, and that's the closest thing to the truth. He's a super fun guy to play with, and he's just a good dude in general, family man, good leader, and always willing to help the young guys. But yeah, when he's out in the field, he's just making plays and just running the ball, throwing the ball. It's super fun to play with, and he's also of course very smart, and he uses his smarts to game plan against the opponent even during the game. So he'll see things and kind of just tell you to maybe run a route differently or whatever it is. And so he's an extremely fun guy to play with.
You've had a chance to play with two guys with an extensive defensive background, Justin Wilcox, Cal, and then of course Brian Flores, former defensive coordinator of the Patriots, now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Can you just talk about the positive influence they've had on you?
Yeah. So when I got into college, we had an offensive-minded head coach, and I was like, as an offensive player, I thought that'd be that's the best way to go. But then when we hired Coach Wilcox, going into my junior season, I realized that offensive or defensive-minded coaches, whatever it is, it doesn't matter about which side of the ball they might secretly root for during practice. It's all about just the leader they are and the type of standard they set. And I'd say actually both coaches are very similar in that they have a certain, way that they want the game to be played. They want smart, tough, disciplined players, and they kind of harp on that every day. And, it's not some secret play or scheme that's going to beat another team. It's going to be just the stuff you do every day in practice, leading up to the games, the preparation. They stress very similar things, and I love that type of leadership. And so, very, very fortunate to be coached by both those guys.
Not only were you a student athlete, graduating business school, doing your thing on the football field for Cal, but also running an awesome program called Walk On, Then Run, summer reading challenges for kids, positively impacting young lives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so going into my senior season is when I decided, I want to play football professionally. So in the prior summers, I had done internships and those sorts of things. And I said, I'm just going to focus on football this summer. But, there's only so many hours a day that you can work out. And so I said, with my extra time, I should do something that I enjoy doing and kind of positively impact the community. And during my junior season, I had done this touchdown celebration where I would pretend to read a book. And that's kind of another story. But so the Cal fans had learned that I, love football, like playing football, but I also enjoy school and enjoy reading. And so I formed a program, pitched it to Cal Athletics. They got on board, and we started the first summer reading challenge. And kids read 4 to 6 books. They filled out a journal, and they brought the journal to our first game of the season, and they got 4 free tickets for them and their family. And we did it this past season as well, and hopefully we're going to do it moving forward.
People, of course, can check that out online, walkonthenrun.com. Great stuff, man. That's a really great cause. Now, we have some rapid-fire questions, some really random questions, just for some people to get to know you better. Are you ready?
All right.
Favorite spot in Miami?
Favorite spot in Miami? Does it have to be in the city? Oh, you know what? I went to Joe's Stone Crab with my girlfriend, and that was super good. So I'm going to go with Joe's Stone Crab. I know it's probably cliche, but it's good food.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
Cheeseburger with jalapenos and French fries.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Who is your funniest teammate and why?
I'd say Jamal Wiltz is my candidate for funniest teammate. You wouldn't expect it. He's kind of like a quiet, low key guy, but every once in a while he just kind of like has these like, one sentence funny things he says during meetings or in the locker room. And I think he's a hilarious guy.
There's a number of players on your team that have facial hair. You, of course, stand out for being perfectly clean-shaven. Have you thought about growing a Fitz-like beard at one point?
I can't grow facial hair enough to pull off a beard. And every once in a while when I haven't shaven for a few days, people see my hair start to come through. And I actually have a very red beard, and it kind of throws people off. So every time someone just like, they'll say like, ooh, you have like red hair growing on your face. It's just kind of like throws people off. So I don't think I could really pull it off. Maybe in a couple of years when more hair starts to come in. No disrespect to people with red hair.
What's your earliest football memory?
Earliest football memory? Probably so I started playing in 5th grade. I was kind of late, but I was going to say my first touchdown. I played defensive end and tight end in youth football. Like that was what I played. And I was on a really good team. And so they took out, how like if you're up by a certain amount, they can take out a couple of players. Mm-hmm. So they took out our running backs and they put me in at running back. And the very first time I touched the ball, I broke a couple tackles and scored a touchdown. So I'd say that's probably my earliest memory.
Awesome. Who was one player that got you hooked? Was there one or two guys either that you played in Madden or that you saw in Sports Center and you were like, man, I got to be like that guy?
I was a big Niners fan growing up, and my favorite running back was Frank Gore. So playing against him this year was crazy. And but yeah, I don't run like him necessarily. He's a lot, he's bigger and stronger than me. But I always just growing up, I just thought he was the man.
He still is the man. I mean, at the time,
he still is the man.
At the time we're recording this, it seems like he still is going to play, and this guy has been just going strong with the Niners, with the Colts, with the Bills. This dude is just ageless. As somebody that's actually played against him, maybe even gotten to know him a little bit, could you just describe the greatness of Frank Gore that maybe fans don't see on TV?
So I met him briefly just after the two times we played him this season. And but he was on the Dolphins last year, and so I got to talk to some of the guys that played with him, and they just said he has this crazy work ethic where he's out there all the time doing extra agility drills, and he has these core workouts that people try to do with him, but they can't hang. So I would love to work out with him one day. We'll see. I know he trains in Miami in the off season, so you hear stories like that, and I don't know what year this is for him, but a lot of the older guys try to just take care of their body. I mean, he does a good job of taking care of his body, but it doesn't seem like he's let any, he hasn't taken his foot off the pedal. He just keeps grinding and doing all those, crazy footwork drills and all that sort of thing. So it's just cool to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll correct myself. He also did play for the Dolphins. And if I do recall correctly, he was splitting a lot of carries with Kenyon Drake, who's also a stud. And a lot of people did not expect that. So he's definitely an ageless wonder. Do you think with his success going into his mid and it's going to be late 30s that he's actually helping make the case for running backs to hang on longer in the NFL, maybe give him more of a chance? Because a lot of times teams won't look at necessarily the remaining skills a player has, but look at the age and say, okay, you know what, let's move on.
I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis. Depends on the guy and, how their body is held up. Obviously, his body is held up well. And, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, incredible running back. So I think he just proves every year that he should keep playing. And so I think teams see that. And, I think it just depends on the guy.
And we'll get you out of here on a high note. What's the best piece of advice you could give anybody for success?
Best piece of advice. Angela Duckworth is the one. She's a sociologist that studied grit, or she kind of coined the term grit. And I think it was purposeful practice over a long period of time is what, leads successful people to their success. And so I'm still working on, developing my own grit, but I think be purposeful and continue to practice at whatever you like. Don't do it for a month. Don't do it for a year. Keep pushing for years on years. And, hopefully eventually that leads to success.
Awesome. Well, Patrick, I sincerely appreciate the time. You're doing some great work, not just in football, but outside the field. You can check out walkonthenrun.com. And where else we can find you, Patrick?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram is Patrick Laird. My Twitter is not that interesting. None of my social media are that interesting. I should definitely get on top of that. But yeah, you can follow me online. And then on walkonthenrun.com, I have a contact page. So people like to reach out through email. I try to do my best to respond. As you guys know, I'm not the greatest. Sometimes get kind of busy. But yeah, I love when people reach out on Instagram or on my website, and love to connect with people.